Hi everyone, here we are at the WOW Summit 2023 here at the Atlantis Royal in Dubai. And with me I have Oliver Studd, the CEO and founder of Valhalla Network.
Awesome.
It's good to see you again.
Ajit Shafiq, as always, a long-term friend of mine. Thank you very much for inviting me on.
Great. So you're back in Dubai. Always exciting to see you. Tell us about your journey into this space. How did you get in?
Yeah, definitely. Good question. Well, I won't go too far back. I don't think we got that long. So I was working on a project with Professor Richard Werner in the UK, a banking project, and we put in a lot of effort into setting up one community bank. So community banks are small banks that focus on lending only to small businesses in a local area. So it's very localized, very ethical, traditional face-to-face banking for small businesses that need it most. So we're working on a community banking project. All this effort was going into it, and I spoke to Rich and I said, why are we putting all this effort into only one community bank? Why don't we set up thousands of community banks? And this was a few years ago now. And then I was speaking to a friend of mine, and he was introducing me more to the idea of DAOs, as it was still coming in then. They were still a little bit unknown, and how DAOs work and the sort of decentralized governance aspect of it. And I really like that because our philosophy is we need to decentralize the banking system. So I thought, well, if we decentralize the front end by setting up thousands of these small banks, and then also combine it with a very decentralized governance side of things, then it's a perfect combination. So I looked into more of the DAOs. I went to Richard and said, this is my idea. What do you think? And then it sort of grew from there. I went out to ETH Lisbon, my first proper crypto event. Flew out to Lisbon, built the team, met a few people, expanded the team quite quickly, and then got the white paper written and done, and then launched about a year and a half ago.
Quite interesting. So of course, Professor Richard Werner is famous for quantitative easing, QE.
Yeah.
And so there's a merger of that philosophy of economics with the space of Web3 using a DAO structure basically.
Yes, definitely. So we're combining the power of banking licenses with the ethos of Web3 and the ethos of decentralized governance. So Richard has been sort of talking about community banking for the last 30 years and has been striving to get community banks operational. He was in the 90s, he invented quantitative easing, so he's very familiar and very well known for his work on banking, credit creation, and the impact that bank lending has on local economies. So we're combining that power and the importance of banks with this ethos, as I said, the sort of atmosphere, the community side of things with Web3.
And what is the plan? I mean, what are the next steps? What is the roadmap in terms of how you want to achieve it? Because obviously it sounds like a very ambitious plan.
So it is. However, you aim for the moon. Wrong way around. Aim for the stars and you'll hit the moon. It is a big mission. It's not going to be, it's not going to be done in a week. It's not going to be done in a fortnight. It's going to take a while. However, we've got a plan in place. We start with an anchor bank to start with, which is a different business model. It's one bank that we're establishing in Liechtenstein. And once that's established, the DAO community take over and decide how does the network grow? Where do we set up the community banks? These small banks to help small businesses. Where do we start setting them up? How many do we want to set up in the first year? Etc. etc. And hopefully in 5 years, we'll have several banks in the network helping small businesses, and it'll be a thriving community as well.
That's quite exciting. So the first bank will be in Liechtenstein, which is obviously a very regulated space.
Very regulated. It has access to the EEA, which is fantastic. The regulator is very small, very cooperative, has a very good reputation in the space. They're very familiar with blockchain and Web3. They're the first country to bring out the Blockchain Act. So not only have you got a very friendly sort of regulator and very well-respected banking regulator, they're also very familiar with the Web3 element. So it's sort of the perfect environment for us to launch our foundation and our first bank.
Very exciting. And how soon do you anticipate that happening?
By the end of next year, we should have our first banking license. Of course, I can't say for certain because banking is the most regulated industry.
Exactly.
Getting a license is incredibly difficult. You have to have the know-how of preparing the documentation and finding the management team for the bank. But you also have to have that relationship with the regulator, make sure they understand what you're trying to do, what the bank is trying to do. And then you'll submit documents, paperwork. It might take sort of 6 months to hear back, and there might be areas which you need to improve. Almost certainly, the first time we submit it, it will not be perfect. There will be some feedback from a regulator saying, can you, go into more detail on this? Can you expand on this so that we can feel more confident and more comfortable? So we aim to get it by the end of next year, but we can't promise it, and it might go into 2025. But as soon as we've got the first license, things get a lot easier after that. We're sort of on a roll then. So
okay, great. In terms of the community and the audience that you want to be part of the Valhalla Network, obviously for the DAO tokens, because you will have a DAO token.
yes, of course. So the foundation is governed by the DAO.
Okay.
So the token holders are the ones governing the foundation, and the foundation owns every single bank that we establish.
And how are you managing that community engagement so far? Obviously, we've been in bear markets for a year and a half, so it's not been an easy time for this space.
No, but it's sort of perfect really for us because we're building. We're still very early in our process. We're in our private funding stage, so we've raised 8 million so far in private funding. We've just opened our final private round of 14.5 million. That's our final round before we then go public next year. So the community side of things is very different when you're in a private round versus when you're in a public round. We've already got a community, sort of a loyal community that supports community banking and understands the importance of it. So that has helped us along the way. And it's a very ethical project that people can really get behind, and they can understand the mission, they can understand why we're doing it, and know that it's something they should support. So the community side of things, like I said, it is growing, but we're in the private stage still. We're not at the public stage doing giveaways and pulling people into the Discord and trying to grow the Discord aggressively or anything like that. We're still not at that stage.
I think also because you're a different type of project. You're not like 100%. A typical crypto project. There is a bank, that you're building, or a network of banks, and you're sort of just bringing it together using a DAO structure to facilitate it.
Indeed. In fact, 90% of our current investors have never touched crypto before, funnily enough. This is their first crypto investment. Again, they're coming more from the traditional background. They understand the traditional banking side of things and what we're trying to do, what our mission is. And then the crypto element is something that they're learning, and how the DAO operates and the governance of it they're learning, and then they want to support the project and coming in. It's like you say, it's a very different community. And
so definitely, if you're still in the fundraising stage, if there are any investors out there, please convey a message to them. What would you like to say to the community, to the investors, in terms of what Valhalla is going to offer, to the wider audience, and what are the milestones?
Of course, so for investors, they're investing and buying governance tokens in the foundation. They're the top layer of the whole structure. So the foundation receives all the dividends from a banking network, and then it uses those dividends to support governance participation rewards. So if you're actually participating in the governance of a foundation and doing work, you can then receive rewards for that. For a traditional startup in crypto, we're very, very different. We're not a traditional startup. The majority of startups can raise 8 million and then they're on the road. They're fantastic, they can build everything, and then they'll go public at some point. Whereas we're very different. We've got pros and cons of our project. The con is we have to raise a substantial amount of capital to start with, which is the sort of 22
getting
million.
The permission.
Yes, we're getting permission for our banking license. We have to raise about 22 million to start with, which is difficult, but we've raised 8 million so far. Like I said, it is going well. However, the pro of it is because the majority of capital that we're raising is purely for tier 1 equity purposes in the first bank that we're setting up. It means we're not actually burning that capital, we're not spending it. Meaning it is sitting there for a regulator to see that we've got the capital to launch our first bank. So there's a limited downside risk, you could say. Very different to a traditional crypto startup.
That sounds very exciting. So like you said, you are planning to do a TGE as well, like a token generation event as well next year. And looks like it's a very solid plan and project you have. So what would be the final words that you would like to convey to the audience, to the viewers here, so they can get to know more about Valhalla?
Of course. So if you want to learn more about community banking, the importance of community banking, why small businesses are important for the economy, and how banks are really fundamental to helping them grow and survive, check out our YouTube channel, Valhalla Network. We've got plenty of educational material on there. We try to portray the message in an easy to understand way as possible. There's whiteboard videos coming up on there as well, so there'll be plenty of content going out. Follow us on there, and then if you have any other questions, the team is more than happy to answer them, and we love questions and having the conversation. So yeah, thank you, Shafiq. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Inviting me on.
So this was Oliver Studd, the CEO and founder of Valhalla Network.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Cheers.